Hello there, Force of Will players, and welcome back to another video. For this week's Wander Wednesday, we're going to be going over a deck that used to kind of show a lot of promise, and it's like a new take on it. You can still kind of play like the old version. There are other ways, and I'll talk about those in the video when we go over all of it. And so that deck is going to be Flicker Lumia with the new 12 Olympians support. Now, I know we've seen other versions of new 12 Olympians, mainly like the Asmodeus Belial Turbo, where you activate Asmodeus' God's Art, try and get 7 names, and then go from there with their Union 7 effects, because a lot of their Union 7 effects are incredibly powerful. So this was just an interesting take that I wanted to try and use or make use of. In the actual making of this deck, it had actually initially started off with a different concept, which led me eventually to here, and it made me want to make another video, basically how I go over my deck, how I go through deck building, and so that'll be coming out probably next week, but we shall see. But anyway, so Flicker Lumia, if you're unaware of what Lumia does, is at the end of your turn, you can remove a rested resonator that you control from the game and then put it into its owner's field. So back in the day, people would use things like Sacred Elf, Elvish Priest, the 2-drop, not Melfi Traveling Sorceress, the Melfi that was like a mana dork. So it was 2 mana, had quick cast, and it could tap for any color of will. People would like use that, so on and so forth. We used Spinning Myths with Frigg for a while. So Frigg, when she enters play, you would target a Resonator Edition enchant, I believe, in your grave and add them to your hand. So Frigg was a very good option. You would play it early off of Spinning Myths, things like that. And then we got Ataraktia, City of Verdant Green, later on down the line, which would give us red or green, and green being the primary color that we were wanting at the time, especially, and then red being in Lumia's Energize. Made it very easy to play, and since it gave what we played Swiftness, it allowed us to blink something on the first turn if we were going second. So that's kind of made its way back into this. So what this version is it's, I mean, we're turboing out the new 12 Olympian stuff. However, we do still have some form of interaction, disruption, etc., in the form of trying to not max out, but get we're at 3 copies of Persephone as part of interaction, and then we're also playing 4 copies of Ares, because Ares is still technically a cancel, right? So even if you only have a couple new 12 Olympians in your grave, Ares does still function as a cancel for the deck. Looking at the top here, so Origin, we're playing 4 Origin. There are a couple reasons. We have the 4 Drywing, and then we have 1 of each of the Mechanized Children in the sideboard. The thing with this is the Mechanized Children, because you can still, they have the Void cost, you can still play them with Ataraktia, City of Verdant Green, which means they will gain Swiftness, which means they can come into play, attack, etc., etc. So if you reveal, like Mechanized Children of Kronos off of Origin, you'll get the Darkness Will, like it'll produce the Darkness Will, you'll get the token, and then if you play it with Ataraktia, City of Verdant Green, and another stone, or actually the Darkness Will that you filter, so you play it with Ataraktia, City of Verdant Green, and the Darkness Will that you filter, you get Mechanized Children of Kronos, you destroy the token that you created, your opponent discards 2 cards, you attack with Mechanized Children of Kronos, you flicker it with Lumia at the end of the turn, you destroy itself, and your opponent discards 2 more cards. So it's like a free, like, kind of discard 4. Same thing with Mechanized Children of Gaia, but it's like a banish 4. So they just function very well with Lumia, with Ataraktia, City of Verdant Green. And then the other things we have going on in the deck, Origin Drywing, obviously. And then we're playing all of the Olympians that aren't at 4 in the main. Well, there is 1 more of them in the side. And the reason for that is because that helps you trigger your Union 7. So if you're at a point where you're like, oh, great, I have 6 names, but I have no other way to get like a name open, if you have an Origin in your hand, you can just rip a free name, right? So it's just an easier way to get names. Conclave, and Attendant of Asmodeus are the main way we're getting names in the deck. So Conclave, the red will, we can just play it with City of Verdant Green if we need to, right? Because while this does give swiftness, and that's pretty important, it is just a mana dork for red and green. So that just helps us as well. So Conclave, draw 3 at the beginning of the end phase, discard 3. It's a way to fill our grave. Attendant, you remove the top 5 cards of your deck, recover 3 magic stones. Also gets rid of the additions, right? I've talked about this in other videos. Attendant's very good at that. Playing 4, you probably could. The numbers in this deck are fairly malleable depending on what you're trying to do. I just went down to 3 so I could play 4 Guardian Dragon. Guardian Dragon is probably one of the best cards that Lumia can play right now, specifically with Verdant Green, because if you go second, and you open Origin, Verdant Green, and Guardian Dragon, you can call Stone, activate Origin, reveal Drywing. You'll have a green, you'll have, let's say, 5 colors because you open Moonshade. And then you'll have your Energize. You use the green and the red from your Energize to play Verdant Green. And now you have 1 will of any color from the Moonshade and the Verdant Green. You play Guardian Dragon of the Kingdom. You get a stun rested. It has swiftness. You attack with Guardian Dragon of the Kingdom. End of the turn, you flicker it. And then you now have, while they're all rested, you now have 3 stones. So it would move to your opponent's turn. They would go second, call their second stone, and then it would go to your turn, and now you have 3 to work with. And you can keep flickering Guardian Dragon and the Autorockdia. So you effectively have 4 will to work with going into your turn 2, and you can still reveal Drywings off of Origin. So you can just start ramping very, very quickly within the deck, should you get that kind of opener. Even if you don't get that kind of opener, you still can keep open like the Autorockdia will to use for the Persephone like discard, or other things like that as well. So Guardian Dragon's just like the best one. Persephone, mainly in here at 3 just for the interaction. The deck space got kind of tight trying to look for like interaction forms. Like it was hard to fit in. I mean, Lorite would have to be like Lorite or Persephone, but it started to get hard to fit in Fair Spells, Garyons, etc., etc. So I just started to go with a higher Persephone count, but I wanted to cap out the side deck with different Olympian names. So I dropped 1 Persephone because I just felt Magna and Ares were more impactful. Again, Ares is our cancel. We're not really flickering him, but he is just going to serve as a decent, like, functional cancel for us. And then, as you can see, the one-ofs are all just names, primarily. They're not anything, like, super special. The two-ofs, Athena and Poseidon, are going to be, like, kind of win cons. Like, Poseidon draws your whole deck on its own. Athena effectively wins the game on its own. And they're all quite powerful. Artemis's Recover starts to become good if you can flicker her, but it doesn't really do much, just normally. Hestia, like, same kind of thing. Hestia, because you can play her, deal 5, swing for 2, and then flicker her, deal 5 more. Like, she can kind of function as, like, this aggro beat stick, so you could maybe up your Hestia counts. And then Aphrodite, gaining life, drawing cards, kind of a value engine. Apollon is okay for like card removal, like Mount Othris's, things like that. And then Hades is just like a destruction effect, which you kind of already have the Persephone's. So yeah, it's kind of pretty hard to play Hades. We can, like, we have the Darkness Will, right? We have the ability to, but 4 mana is still a lot. So Magnas. So I maxed out on Magnas for a couple reasons. One, honestly, the +1/+1 counters is less relevant. It being able to draw you cards if X is 5 is huge, because you want, like, a kind of value engine in the deck in order to flicker. So you have Aphrodite as part of your value engine, and then we also have Magna as part of our value, for our, like, value engine. The other thing is, because Magna and Lenneth give swiftness, you can, as soon as you play it, you swing with it, you flicker it at the end of the turn. That's primarily how we've gotten the flicker effects off in the past, is with swinging, giving things swiftness, etc., etc. Magna is also a fairly decent win con, because it doesn't, it takes the attack of all new 12 Olympians you control, not just new 12 Olympians with different names. So even if you have 4 Magnas in play, you'll still burn for quite a lot, even on the flicker. And then side deck, I've talked about stone lineup, pretty simple, 4 red-green. As you can kind of see, we're very predominantly in red and green for the not new 12 Olympian stuff. 4 Moonshade, because new 12 Olympians are all 5 colors. And then 2 Darkness Wind stones. I always forget these stones' names. Black Silence. Because of Persephone's effects. Being able to play the Persephone for her effects and things like that. And then also in order to play the Mechanized Children. Just in case we want to. And because we have the Moonshades. And no real way to sack off our stones that I'm aware of. It's not really that useful to just go into Memoria of Reincarnation, the Persea Stone. But so that is this list. A couple things you could potentially do. You can move around the Olympian count however you want. Like that is all kind of preference. You could remove Conclave and try and play something else, maybe more removal tools, more control tools. But then you would be purely relying on Attendant of Asmodeus in order to fill like your grave, RFG, etc., etc. So I'm not a huge fan of it. You could lower the interaction, so you could lower Ares, lower Persephone's, and then go higher on, like, I don't know, Hestia's, Athena's, like, aggro cards, basically. And then there are other ways to build Lumia altogether. So, again, I'll get into this in the tech building video that I want to make now. But, like, you can play, like, a Persea, like, toolbox deck, right? Because you can still flicker Persea. You could play, and you can flicker like Melfi Traveling Sorceress. There are just like other good effects that you can still flicker in the game. You could play the Nyarlathotep for Lumia's flip, which is when Lumia attacks, you flicker something. So there are just a bunch of different ways that you can choose to go about this in terms of numbers, in terms of playing the deck. But I just wanted to make a deck, one with Lumia, because I apparently didn't have one on my channel. I thought I had made a mono white Lumia list, but I couldn't find it. And then new 12 Olympians just have like the best enter effects in the game. So we just decided to go that route. But anyway, that is going to be the list for this week. Spoiler season has started, so I will more than likely be trying to get out a spoiler video every Friday. I will make a post on my Twitter if I won't be able to get it out on a certain Friday. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.